You're listening to the fourth series of Behind the Rhymes, the mountain we all climb, with me, Maja.
And me, Andrew. The moneylender's trap. Credit is the devil. Credit is the drug. Credit gets you what you want, but rarely what you need. Every time it's used, another chain is added, invisible, and given with greed and not any love. Buy, but only your soul ever sells. The poker game with expert players, just watching and waiting for your tell. Your metals rust, the plastic's in the bin, the takeaway goes to human recycling. You did not realise your hopes are also in the bin. Years after the enjoyment, years after the fun, you'll still be paying for the pleasure of a licensed loan shark. A banker's plan. And when you can't pay any more, there is another system in place to take the scraps from your table and leave you in a bad place. And when through moral judgment you decide to pay your dues, another conman tells you, I've got a solution to your blues. But yet again another money trap is sprung, because years after you pay your way, you come full circle, and the marks are still visible on a database on another moneylender's computer display.
Why did you write this poem, Andrew?
It's a personal story, actually. Several years ago, I got myself into debt. And it's all about the journey of getting into debt, how easy it is to get into debt, and then when you come to the realisation that you need to sort this debt out, and the systems that are in place really to exploit you to the very end. And then once you've removed yourself from this trap, how you're encouraged to go back again. So it's the complete journey. It's a cycle, really.
Do you want to tell us how you got into it and what happened to you? Is it the story of almost every Brit of today? Is it the story of financial mismanagement or living beyond your means or not earning enough or...
I think there's a bit of everything in there. I mean, when you're in a relationship with somebody, whether you're married or you're living with them, and you combine your finances, you have to be able to trust the other person to be responsible with not only their money but yours as well. And at this point in time, I'd used credit cards for some years. I'd had a bank loan as well. And through a variety of circumstances, which led me and my partner and kids needing to move house. Every time you move house, you're talking thousands of pounds, even if it's renting from one property to another. I think that took a toll. I came to the end of a loan, then I re-loaned. And then the other person in that relationship wasn't being very responsible with money. And so by month's end, when you have children, you have to make ends meet somehow. And I was making those ends meet on the credit card. And, and you think about 80 or £100 putting food on the table, fuel in the car. You don't think it's very much, but you can never pay that off, because next month the same's going to happen again. You get the same amount of money coming in, and now you've got to pay these credit card companies off and these bank loans off. And at one point I was paying out approximately about £800 a month in loans and on credit cards. And it's ridiculous. And I got there over a journey of, 20 years. When I think my first credit card I had in my early 20s, I remember it very well. I won't mention the bank. The limit was £500. By the time I'd finished with that company and run up debts, they were offering me £15,000 based on my salary, which hasn't really increased massively in that time. I had no collateral to pay against that. I had no house, for example. So that's how I got into debt. When I decided to stop and I had to face up to the facts that I couldn't afford to keep paying £800 a month out anymore. Obviously the banks want their money, and so
So this was £800, not even repaying the debt. It was just to pay the interest.
It probably wouldn't have been clearing much of the amount owed, I would say. It would have been clearing mainly interest payments. I think I was maybe 2 or 3 credit cards and definitely a bank loan back then.
Thank you for sharing this. Although it sounds like a huge amount of money, your situation actually wasn't that unique. Today, the average household debt in the UK is over £10,000 per household. And that's on top of mortgages. Student loans obviously are a heavy burden for young people. Mortgages or home improvement and vehicle loans are a heavy burden on the middle-aged. So about 80% of all Brits have less than £500 in their account, with many people having no savings at all and having to resort to credit cards for necessities. So there's a whole industry of services trying to, so to speak, help people to manage their debt, but the debt is only increasing and it's now into trillions. So your poem is not just unique to your experience, it's the experience of our times. Do you think this is a problem that the population is just used to living beyond its means, or is it actually that people think that they are more wealthy than they actually are?
I mean, credit is a thing, isn't it? I mean, to finish the story and answer your question partly as well, by the time I come to the point of needing to pay this money back, I own £25,000, which is not an inconsiderable amount of money. I couldn't pay £25,000 back. So I went through what's called an IVA, which is insolvency. Basically, it's one step below bankruptcy. So I just basically...
Sorry to interrupt you, but I read data, that every 4 seconds a person goes bankrupt in the UK.
Yes, okay. But so I didn't want to go bankrupt because bankrupt has like horrible associations. So you steer away from bankruptcy. Oh, bankruptcy is bad. Whenever you hear it on the news, this company's gone bankrupt, that individual. So I didn't want to go bankrupt. So I went for a step below bankruptcy, which still means you have to pay your debts off. And this takes place over several years. There's a set amount. They means test you to make sure that you're not, you can still live, but you need to pay this money back. And so you're into another part of the system there where another company basically processes this paperwork. They get your money, they get a cut of that money, they then feed this money back to the banks that you owe money to. After 5 years of paying that money back, the banks had enough of their money and they sold that on to other debt collection companies who then for the last year or two milked that system as well. So there's systems set within systems set within systems. Now, trying to reestablish my credit afterwards has been horrible. I after several years of not having any credit, and that, believe me, that affects everything. So if you want to rent, for example, people won't take you on because you don't pass credit checks. Changing bank accounts, you can't change bank accounts because you can't pass a credit check. Some of the utility companies, some of the phone providers, won't take you on.
So you're like a customer pariah.
Yes, you are. But then, what happens then is, after that, you paid your dues, but the mark is still on your record. So then, you're essentially back to 18, and your credit is 0. So you have to build up. So I had to take, and there are specific credit cards for this, credit building credit cards up. I had to take a credit card out, and I actually didn't need to use it. I'd got a lot better at managing my finances, and I wasn't in that relationship anymore as well. So I then had to take the credit system again. So now I'm back to having a credit card because I had to have a credit card. I'm now back to having a bank loan. So I've come totally full circle here. The banks I don't know. Maybe they're a bit more responsible now than they were. I haven't got a £15,000 credit limit on my credit card anymore. But still, what I get from them is, if you don't use it, and I don't really use it very much, is that they, first of all, they get worried. They send me text messages saying, "Has your card been stolen? Is everything okay?" Because I've not used my credit card for 3 or 4 or 5 months. Then, if you use it and pay it off, they're offering to up your credit limit. And it's very small increments to £300. But, the bank account that I had the 15,000 with the credit card company didn't just give me 15,000. That slowly crept up over time. So they expect people to be responsible with this, but people can't be responsible with this. And I think, I'm talking about several years ago now. It's even more sort of in the news at the moment that people are living off of credit cards, payday loan companies, pawnbrokers. It's even worse now.
So, would you say that this poem is a moral story about learning how to manage finances?
It's my story of how I got into trouble, and the systems that are in place actually to mop up people getting into trouble. And inevitably, most people get into trouble. The banks are the people that win in this situation. The big boys, the banks, they are winners here. If they can write off a debt after 5 years when there's still several £1,000s worth of money to go to and sell it to another company, they are the winners here.
Definitely, because people often think when we talk about debt, they think that British people owe the money to someone abroad. But actually, about 75% of the money that British people owe to is funds, banks within the UK. So you're absolutely right. They are the winners. They are the ones who share the multi-million bonuses, although they're also the same banks that were financed by the public during the financial crisis due to their mismanagement of money.
Yes, I mean, the huge irony here is that when I got into trouble in 2014, the banks at that point, and I think one of the banks I was dealing with, was being held up by the taxpayer because they got themselves into huge trouble when they in 2008, and we were still paying for them. So not only did I pay for their mistakes, I also paid for my own mistakes as well.
With interest.
With interest, yeah, with interest.
Now that we've discussed what the poem is about, would you like to read The Moneylender's Trap again for our listeners?
The Moneylender's Trap. Credit is the devil. Credit is the drug. Credit gets you what you want, but rarely what you need. Every time it's used, another chain is added, invisible, and given with greed and not any love. Buy, but only your soul ever sells. The poker game with expert players, just watching and waiting for your tell. Your metals rust, the plastic's in the bin, the takeaway goes to human recycling. You did not realise your hopes are also in the bin. Years after the enjoyment, years after the fun, you'll still be paying for the pleasure of a licensed loan shark. A banker's plan. And when you can't pay any more, there is another system in place to take the scraps from your table and leave you in a bad place. And when through moral judgment you decide to pay your dues, another conman tells you, I've got a solution to your blues. But yet again another money trap is sprung. Because years after you pay your way, you come full circle, and the marks are still visible on a database on another moneylender's computer display.
You've been listening to Behind the Rhymes, the mountain we all climb, with me, Maja.
And me, Andrew. You can find all the poems from this series in my new book, Beyond the Bunker, or How I Learned to Stop Worrying and Write Poetry.
The book is produced by our publishing company, Anarchy. And if you want to order it, contact us at vonperestproductions@outlook.com. gmail.com.
where you can also contact us about other things, maybe even including a chat about the state of the world.